Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Michelle. I have a really bright and colorful lace cut page for you today. You know that doing lace cut pages is one of my absolute favorite things to do, and I haven't tried it out in this new journal from Marlene, but I must say the paper holds up beautifully. It cuts really, really well, and it doesn't feel like the page goes all flimsy and weak. It's really, really lovely. So I grabbed out this little birdie from Marlene's Giant Paper Elements book, and I've got the new stencil as well. And I'm just seeing where I'm going to do the lace cut page. So I don't often do the entire page of lace cut. I like to leave some of the paper still solid, but I do like to add sometimes like groups of maybe like 3 groups of cuts, and then the rest is blank. And on this particular day I just did this one space where the bird was going to sit on top of. So I'm just going in and seeing how I'm going to make it work. So I didn't want there to be a very defined line of where it ends, so that's why I went up. At the top there you'll see that diamond shape, and at the bottom there's another diamond shape. Okay, so to cut you have to make sure you've got a fresh clean blade, new and sharp. You just saw me taking the tip of mine off there. And work slowly, turn your book, and just be careful with it. So the way that I like to do it is I'll do all of the diagonal lines in one direction, and then I'll do the other direction. I just turn my book accordingly, so I don't put too much strain on my wrist, and I'm also able to keep my fingers out the way. So this stencil is quite intricate, so I decided to divide all of the tiny triangles up into 2. So I'm smushing them together and making one big cut. Instead of doing 2 tiny triangles, I'm doing one big one. So instead of having 12 little triangles, I've got 6 bigger ones on each of these shapes. I hope that makes sense. I'm not going to make you look at me cutting for the entire duration. It did take a while, but I'm just showing you here again how I'm doing all of the cuts in one direction and then all of the cuts in the other direction, and then I'll pop them out as I go. Okay, easy peasy, there we go. If you do not feel confident, or if you maybe cannot do a lace cut page, you could possibly use a die cut machine, or maybe if you've got like a Cricut machine or a Silhouette, you could use that, or then alternatively you can use some of Marlene's beautiful metal dies to create the same effect. Now I'm going in with my sky paint. So initially I traced out my stencil with sky paint. I didn't want to go with black because I knew that I wasn't going to be precise with my cutting, so I chose to go with blue. And now just to blend those little bits of blue that I still have left over, I'm going in with that same blue. Okay, at the top there I didn't clean my sponge in between, and I went in with yellow, and it created a horrible looking green. But you'll see me fixing that in a second. So I've gone with sky, cheesy, and ballet. And I'm just blending it out with my sponge. I am mixing some of the colors together, so especially where the blue and the pink meets, it makes a beautiful purple looking color. So I am blending that intentionally to make it into that purple color. All right, that top part was really bugging me, so I'm going in with a little bit of gesso on my blending tool. I'm going to dry it off, and then I'll just go in with blue over the top again, and that is problem solved. I am washing my sponge in between now. There we go, all fixed up. So I chose these colors because the bird has these colors in it, and I wanted to make sure the background matches the foreground, but don't worry, it's still going to pop off of each other. Okay, now to add a little bit of detail into the background and make the joins be not so obvious, I'm going in with the previous release's hexagon stencil, and I'm just going to stencil through. So for the yellow, I'm starting in the yellow section and I'm moving out over the pink section, and I'm doing the same with the pink, and I'm just going to overlap the colors and make them blend together a little bit more. This is a little bit of white, and you'll see how that page just comes together when that texture goes over the top. I really liked adding the white over the blue, and then I'm going back with a little bit of yellow over the pink and a little bit of pink over the yellow. The pink at the top there wasn't bright enough for me, so I'm just going over with a second coat, and I was much happier with the way that looked. At this stage, I was thinking I needed some white space in my page, so I did add a little bit of white, obviously, over the blue, and then I thought I would do some white embossing. Here in our land, South Africa, we don't really have access to the best products. I know that there is a beautiful white ink pad out there somewhere. I think it's from Hero Arts. From what I've seen when people use it, it is so bright and opaque, but we can't get it here. So to remedy that, first I went in with some black stamping, and I'm going to take out the grungy texture stamp. I'm using this little broken square one, and I'm going in with my Wow Embossing ink pad. I do not have Wow Embossing powder in white. I used the Ranger one. Once this one's finished, I will get the Wow one. And I'm just going to use that instead of a traditional normal white ink pad. Of course, I could have used just paint on my stamp, but I thought I would like to add a little bit of texture into that page anyway. So it all worked out in the end, and you'll see just how beautiful and bright white that stamping image, the stamped images come up once they're all heat set. Okay, I was really happy with the way that looked. And now I'm going to start putting my little elements together. Of course, when I planned this, I did not plan well enough ahead to think about the fact that these elements will have nowhere to stick onto because I've cut all of the paper away. But in the end, we made it work, so it's okay. So you can just watch me fiddling about with all these little elements. I took out a couple of color wheels and some branches. I've also got one of those scallopy kind of borders, and that'll be sort of the main branch where my bird is sitting on. And then you'll see me gluing things together first before I glue them onto the page. It just makes it a little bit more manageable since I can't really glue it onto the paper that's not there. I really, really love these little color wheels that Marlene does. I think they are so versatile, and I just love the look of them really in each of my pages where I use them. I really, really like the way that I looked. I felt that the border wasn't extended quite enough, so I found another pink little strip and a couple of other bits just to make the picture come together. And then I did pause the video for a second there to find something on the left side that's going to help carry the pink through out. I didn't want to use another scallopy border, so I'm looking for some kind of pink element that I can pop on the left side there just to bring that pink theme all the way through. I did try a little paint splat and a couple of things here and there, and eventually we got it right after a brief pause. So I found a little pink rainbowy looking element, and that's what I went with. And you can see how that just brings the whole picture together of the bird sitting on this arrangement. And now I'm just going in and gluing down the little bits that I can glue onto the paper. Just tiny dots of glue here and there. Marlene's glue is amazing. I haven't had anything fall off my pages, even when it's just a tiny dot. So I am confident that these elements are going to stay where they are. Eventually I'll do something on the back of that page as well, so that will also help to secure them a little bit more. Of course, I'm going in with some neon paints, and I'm just going over the bird and brightening up some of those little pink bits. So I'm just going pink over pink, purple over purple, yellow over yellow. And really what these neon paints do is they just make the color that's already there, it just brightens it up. So it's like a filter that you would use on a photo. It's the same thing that happens when you put a neon over the top. It doesn't alter the color of what's there in any way. It just brightens them up a bit. And now the yellow. With the humidity here, it's really difficult to keep these nibs clear and clean, even though I store them upside down. It's just hot and humid here. So there is always a little bit of a blockage in my paint tubes. And I'm drying off in between, and now I'm going to go in and add a little bit of black details and some white highlights. So I'm really only going around the bird and the leaves. I did want the other elements to be in the background. So I want the bird to be sticking out, and the rest of it is just in the background. I thought that maybe if I outlined everything, it was going to be a little bit too busy, because I mean my background is pretty busy already, and then the lace cut also makes it look busy, even though it also brings in some white space. For now, when I do something at the back of that, it's not going to be white space anymore. So I try to keep all of that in mind. And you can see now when I put the white in, how it just brightens everything up and brings that bird a little bit, it gives it a little bit more light and brightness and life. Okay, once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to do a little shadow underneath the tail and underneath that little scallopy arrangement where my bird is sitting on top of, and that just also helps to push the background back and to bring that bird forward a little bit. I'm really happy that I went in with this Stabilo All Pencil, because I felt like it really brought the page together. Okay, and then I'm going to look for a quote. I'm using Marlene's new Quotelicious quotes. I love these. They are so fun to work with. They are on a thicker board, and they're also shiny. And who doesn't love a little bit of shine? I certainly do. Good, gluing all of those down. And then I'm just going to do a scribbly border around them. And when I was done doing the scribbly border around the quote, I thought that I needed to bring that scribbly border down into the focal image as well. So I've gone around some of the scallopy bits, and I just made a scribbly border and some weird scribbles around the words, and then also in my little arrangement. And that is it for today. Thank you so much for being here. If you have not tried a lace cut page yet, I can encourage you to do so. If you have, let me know. Tell me how you like it. And I will see you again soon. Bye.